Take that conversation forward and let's discuss the latest trends in the tea industry. And to do that, we now have Mr. Arijit Raha of Indian Tea Association now joining us. Mr. Raha, thank you so much for taking your time out and joining us on this occasion of International Tea Day. But first up, tell us what is brewing in the tea industry, both in the domestic and in the global market, and how is the landscape for tea industry shaping up?
Greetings from the Indian Tea Association. Let me begin by touching on the International Tea Day. This is a very special day for us. Thanks to the efforts of the Government of India, this day has been earmarked in the global calendar by the United Nations to be celebrated the International Tea Day across the world. The theme this year is Tea for Better Lives. And when you talk about tea for better lives, two issues come to the fore. One, that tea is a drink that is healthy. It has been declared healthy by the FDA, and this is an occasion to extol the virtues of tea drinking. And second, about 1-2 million workers have direct employment with the tea industry. 50% of them are women. And when we talk about better lives for these people, we are talking about improving the quality of lives of these people who depend on this industry. And that in itself is intricately linked to the sustainability of the industry, and that again looks at economic and environmental sustainability. The Government of India has this year added a new dimension to the FAO theme that I just spoke about. It talks about an Atmanirbhar tea industry marching towards Viksit Bharat. The landscape as it emerges, I think 2025, we have begun with a production which is higher up to March, April, about 12%, 12.3% higher than 2024. However, in the month of April, we are noticing towards the end, due to drought conditions prevailing in certain pockets of Assam and West Bengal, the crop is likely to be down.
Okay, so that's as far as production is concerned. But Mr. Raha, let's now shift focus to exports from India. And also because India has now become the second or third largest tea exporter in the world, which are the key export markets for Indian tea and any new buyers which have recently been added to this particular list of exports of Indian tea to the world?
Well, you see, this year, as I mentioned, that even though exports have been slightly down, we have had some gains in in Egypt, in Turkey, in Germany. That is there. Generally speaking, to put it in perspective, we account in the 21 countries account for about 87% of the exports from India. And you can put this into 4 blocks. 6 countries, Saudi Arabia, UAE, Iran, Iraq, Turkey, and Egypt. This is about 42% of the exports. It's 106 million. Then you have Russia, Ukraine, and Kazakhstan, which is the CIS bloc, which accounts for about 20%. And then you have UK, Europe, Canada, Australia, Netherlands, and which accounts for another 20%, and about 7% goes to China, Japan, Afghanistan, etc. So essentially, if you look at the entire basket, these 21 countries make up for about 87 to 88% of the exports. And this very much covers most of the major tea consuming countries.
So 21 countries contribute about 87% of India's tea exports. But Mr. Raha, tell us which Indian tea varieties are witnessing highest demand. Is it black tea or the traditional Assam tea or the Darjeeling tea?
See, in India, when you look at the consumption patterns, if you're really speaking, CTC has the highest demand, followed by Orthodox and Green. We are noticing a transformative shift that is happening, especially with the younger generation in urban India, towards value-added teas and tea infusions, iced teas, which are very highly, which are in demand, and this demand appears to be picking up. And these perhaps will be a major component of the basket in the years ahead, because the young generation, that is the millennials and the Gen Z, really speaking. The Gen Z population in India is about 377 million, which is the highest in the world. They would dominate the consumer space, and their preferences are playing a role in crafting newer kind of variants in teas as we see it progressing. But as of today, while the overall consumption is about 840 grams per capita annually, which is about 1100 million kgs, the dominant teas are sold in Western and Northern markets of India, the states, which is about 66%, about 20% in towards the Eastern India, and Southern India is slightly lower. And CTC is really the dominant tea sold because most of India drinks tea with milk and sugar.
Mr. Raha, that was exactly my next question. With consumers now becoming more conscious about what they consume, are consumption trends now changing, and are young consumers switching to specialty and green tea, especially because of the health benefits they have? And if you can tell us, as a percentage of total sales, how much does these value-added tea contribute?
You see, as a percentage of total sales, it would be on a single digit as far as specialty and value-added teas are concerned. But yes, it is growing very fast. As I mentioned already, that there is a demand for specialty teas, flavored teas, masala chais, bubble tea, and a variety of other teas, tea infusions, which is becoming very, very prevalent, and it is primarily in the urban market where out of home tea drinking is more prevalent, and this is being driven by the younger generation.
Okay, and now that India has become one of the top exporters of tea globally, any steps that India particularly is taking to enhance the global brand of India tea, especially in light of competition that Indian tea is facing with other countries, the likes of Sri Lanka, Kenya and China? How is the competitive landscape shaping up for Indian tea exports?
See, in terms of export orientation, I just mentioned that last year we have surpassed Sri Lanka to become the third largest exporter. India, unlike other tea producing countries, black tea producing countries particularly, that is Kenya and Sri Lanka, has a huge domestic market. You see, the 88 to 90% of the produce from these countries is exported. For us, the export is a residue of production minus consumption. Okay. So while we have been exporting to the anything between 200 to 250 million, that has been the range, our consumption has been also growing. So we have to cater to a domestic market. So the competition per se, as far as India branding is concerned, definitely we are working on the quality parameters very, very intricately. We are working on the MRL parameters, which is extremely important for importing countries. And the fact that Indian tea is in demand and the export figures are rising bears testimony to the fact that the Indian brand is revered as a tea brand even today, and it should be in the future. But we need to specifically do a few events, promotion events, which are being planned by the Ministry of Commerce and the industry in specific markets. And these markets are, as I said, as I mentioned to you, the main markets of Saudi Arabia, Turkey, Iran, Iraq, these markets, and a few in the USA, Canada, etc.
And Mr. Raha, since we are also talking about exports and the competitive landscape currently, let's also discuss the impact of recent geopolitical developments. Have we seen any kind of impact of tariff war and geopolitical tensions on tea exports from India?
As of now, there is no impact. As of now, there is no impact. While we speak, as we speak today, I think the US FTA is under negotiation. The tea was on a zero tariff in the US, black tea, bulk black tea. So we will be in a better position to understand how it might impact But tea by per se, whatever studies are there in the public domain, uh, more than price, it is the taste and flavor that drives consumption. Tea is not a very expensive commodity. So it may not have a very, very grave impact. But yes, if the tariffs are very high, it may affect us. Geopolitical tensions are concerned, I think it has not affected us so far. Uh, it We do not know whether any demand depression in consuming markets would increase the surplus, and that could have an overall effect. But as such, specifically on the Indian market, there's been no effect.
Mr. Raha, thank you so much for taking your time out and joining us here on ET Now and helping us